Yeah, that royal shit was different.
Yeah.
That royal shit was different with
Dude
50
them
and all
came through
them.
that shoot.
I remember they
We
was
got
like,
them.
look, I'll never forget. We was out there shooting dice. They like, man, this nigga just got some money. He trying to flip everybody royal.
He
All the
flipping
shorties
everybody.
going for that shit.
All the shorties was royal. It wasn't even no travelers gang.
The men talking there are looking at a video of one of their own homies getting killed in the middle of a crowd. And the thing breaking their brains is not even the shooter. It is everybody else around him watching the whole thing happen, and not one of them lifting a hand to help. The man on the ground is a Chicago rapper named Cheeks DeDon.
I don't know how to beat if a nigga play. I stay at fucking game. Touching on my back around the gang cause I don't play. So 100 nigga, I don't play. If I don't know you, I don't wanna.
And the craziest part of all is that he saw it coming. Months before this night, he sat in front of his own phone, fresh home from prison, and told the whole world who was really going to be the one to get him. He was begging to be kept away from his so-called friends because he trusted his enemies more than the people he called family.
From my so-called friends, if I can kill my own enemies. 9 times out of 10, the ops ain't gonna kill shit. Be their own homies, snaked out. I'll keep that shit. Stay the fuck away from around me, fake ass nigga.
6 months after that warning, he was flat on his back in the street, bleeding, with every man standing over him being somebody he knew, and still nobody moved. But that is only half of what we are getting into today. Because a few years before all of this, on the other side of the same city, another man went out almost the exact same way, and his story might be even crazier than this one. Before we talk about how he died, you have to understand how rare it was for a man like this to make it as far as he did. His name was Nico DeMarcus O'Neill Whitehead, born on January 5th of 1989, and the streets knew him as Cheeks DeDon.
Turn the f*** up, man. Turn up, man. Look, man. Look, free the guy. Shout out to my brother Wazzy, man. Shout out to my brother Naughty, man. Shout out to my brother Rock. Freedom game, it was the real game. It was the real tees, man. Them stand-up tees, man. Never fall, man. You feel me? No matter what. The Cop King on his way home, man. My nigga Rock, boy, you know how the fuck all my niggas, let's go. You feel me? The Cop King on his way home, man.
He came up on the west side of Chicago, in West Garfield Park and Humboldt Park, on the kind of blocks the city forgot about. His people describe where he grew up as dirty blocks with junky traps and corner stores and not much hope in between. He went from Morton Elementary to Esmond Middle to Morgan Park High, but like a lot of shorties out there, the school was never really going to win against the block. By his teens, the block had him all the way. He was a traveler vice lord, part of a money-focused clique called the Wild Bunch Money Gang, and they held down the corner of Chicago Avenue and Trumbull.
Yeah, Doug Show determined hustler, man. Determined hustler, man. Wild Bunch Money Gang, man.
If you know anything about that world, you know the Vice Lords are one of the oldest and biggest gangs in the whole city, so this was not some little internet crew. This was a real organization with real history, going all the way back to the early 1960s, when a group of teenagers broke off and started their own thing. By the time Cheeks came along, that thing had grown into a whole world with its own rules, money, and graveyard. He was one of the ones who rode for it when he was young enough that riding for it could get you killed or buried under a prison. And he did not just ride for it in name only. The people who came up with him describe him as a real enforcer, one of those guys who stood on business and ran the missions and put in the work that gave the whole clique its fear. His whole reputation was built on the idea that he would go for the homies who could not go for themselves. He was the one you wanted standing next to you when things got ugly. That is what makes the ending so bitter. And we will get all the way there, but hold on to that image of him as the man who always showed up for everybody else. He carried that name into the studio too, sitting down for interviews with Zach TV, which for a Chicago street guy is basically the local version of getting on the 6 o'clock news. He wore that loyalty on his skin, and I mean that literally. He had tattoos from his hands almost up to his face, money stacks, 5-point stars for the Vice Lords, the word Didon written across his stomach, his name Cheeks written across his chest. Keep that loyalty in your mind because it is the key to this entire story. There's one more piece of his background you have to understand before we get to that night, and it is the piece that turns a sad story into a betrayal, which is the question of the block. In Cheeks' world, a block is not just a street, it's a position, a rank, a piece of real estate that comes with money and respect and power over everybody standing on it.
When Cheeks went away to prison, that position did not just sit there frozen waiting for him. Other people stepped up and got comfortable holding what used to be his, running things, eating off it, enjoying being the ones in charge. And everybody understood quietly that whenever Cheeks came home, he was going to want his spot back. That is the kind of tension that sits under the surface for years and never gets said out loud right up until the night it finally explodes.
Breaking overnight, Chicago police are investigating a deadly shooting on the city's west side. Officers tell us they were called to the area near Franklin and Spalding for a report of a person shot. That's when they say they found a 35-year-old man who had been shot several times. The victim was taken to a hospital where he later died. It's still not known who fired the shots.
You also have to understand how close these bonds ran. Because in his world, the tightest friendships are the sandbox homies, the ride-or-die guys you have known since you were both little kids on the same block. These are the people you grew up next to, fought next to, went hungry next to, the ones who are supposed to be closer than blood. That is the level of trust we are talking about, and that is what makes what happened so hard to swallow. Because the trouble that took his life did not come from some rival across the city. It came from right there inside that sandbox circle, from the people who were supposed to be the last ones who would ever turn on him. Then the feds got him. He caught a federal case for drugs and a gun, the kind of case that comes with real time, and he did that time quietly. The people who were locked up with him say he stood tall and never folded and never told on anybody. He came home somewhere around late 2023, and when he touched back down, he was glowing. The money was flowing again, the women were around, the clothes were fresh, and the whole neighborhood could see that prison had not broken him, it had almost polished him. To a lot of people who never left those blocks, that shine was a beautiful thing to see. But to a few of them, that shine was a real problem, because nothing eats at a jealous man harder than watching somebody he came up with go away, come back, and win bigger than before. You put that jealousy next to the question of who really runs the block now, and you've got a fuse just waiting on a match. That fuse is the quiet engine under everything that happened next. And Cheeks somehow already felt it in the air. That warning clip we opened with was not some random venting. He put that message out in the open for everybody to see, telling the whole world that his so-called friends worried him a lot more than his enemies ever could.
From my so-called friends, if I can kill my own enemies. 9 times out of 10, the ops ain't gonna kill shit. Be their own homies, snaked out. I'll keep that shit. Stay the fuck away from around me, fake ass nigga.
He said the homies had slaked out. They had faded on him, gone cold, turned into something he did not recognize anymore. The night it happened was supposed to be a good night. It was June 29th of 2024, and there was a class reunion kickback on Franklin Boulevard on the west side. This was not a small thing tucked away in an alley. By the accounts of people who were actually out there, it was massive. There were hundreds and hundreds of people, music, old faces, folks who grew up together, all standing on the same few blocks. And somewhere in that crowd, a beef that had been sitting quiet for a while finally boiled over. The way the people closest to it tell it, the trouble started over a woman, the baby mama of a man Cheeks knew since they were kids, and it grew into something bigger than the woman. It became about the block itself and who was going to run it now that Cheeks was home. The fight itself started as a straight-up one-on-one, hands only, and Cheeks won it. That should have been the end of it, but he had been sipping lean all night, and when he reached for his gun in the middle of everything, he fumbled it and shot himself in his own leg by accident. That one mistake changed the whole night. In the seconds he was down and hurting, somebody snatched his gun, and then they started beating him with it, pistol whipping him right there on the ground while the crowd closed in on him. He was surrounded, and depending on who you ask, it was anywhere from 8 to 20 men standing over him, and a lot of them were people he knew. Not one of them picked him up or pulled him out. They just stood there and watched. Now, people have argued for over a year why nobody moved, and the truth is probably a few things stacked on top of each other. A big part of it was that the whole scene was faded, because this was a party, and everybody was deep in the lean and the pills, and a crowd that high does not move fast for anything, even a man dying at their feet. On top of that was the fear, since in that world, being seen helping the wrong person can put your own name on a list. And then there's the ugliest possibility of all, the one the streets keep coming back to, which is that some of the people in that circle were not frozen at all. They were in on it and wanted him gone.
Then it went from a beating to an execution. A gunman, who was not even part of the original fight, walked up on him while he was helpless on the pavement and fired multiple fatal shots into his body and head. And the coldest detail of all, according to the people who studied that footage, is that it looked planned, like they waited for the right moment to do it clean.
That royal shit was different.
Yeah.
That royal shit was different with
Dude
50
them
and all
came
them.
through that shoe.
I remember they
It's
was
out
like,
there.
Hey,
look,
it
I'll
wasn't
never
even
forget, we
no
was out there shooting
traveling,
dice. They like, man, this got some money. He trying to flip everybody royals.
He
All the
flipping
shorties
everybody.
going for that shit.
All the shorties was royal. It wasn't even no travelers gang. In my
He
life.
flipped all them
He
motherfuckers.
flipped all them.
All the shorties going. He like, I ain't gonna lie, all the shorties going for that shit.
My
Shorties
mama.
got some millions. He just flipped everybody,
He
turned
was
up and
putting
kick
2,000
kills.
Well, didn't he, like,
on
sue the
every
police or
nigga
something?
head. Yeah, he shot the police or some shit. But,
Nah. They put a murder on him that went his. He didn't do. And they gave him like 20-something million or 40-something million behind that shit.
Mo, he started flipping.
After the shots, the crowd just melted away, like nothing happened. He was rushed to Stroger Hospital and pronounced dead. Investigators found around 20 shell casings at the scene, which tells you this was not one nervous shot in a panic. This was a lot of firepower aimed at a man who could not even stand up. Then the whole thing got worse because it went viral. A bystander clip that runs about 59 seconds spread across X and YouTube and TikTok, and suddenly the entire country was watching a man die while his own people stood there with their hands at their sides. Hundreds of people saw it, and it is literally on video. But this case is unsolved because out there, nobody talks, and the people in that crowd understood the price of talking better than anybody. Even the victim's side seemed to want street justice more than a courtroom. Word going around afterward, according to the same breakdown, was that his baby mama slid into somebody's messages promising that everybody who stood there was going to pay for it. So that is how they buried Cheeks to Dawn. And here is who the streets actually lost that night, because he was a lot more than just a gang name. He was a father, and by every account a real one, with a young son they called Baby Nico, and a daughter named Erinique, and a wife named Sean Key who stood by him.
Get the apple.
Get my kids. Y'all give me some love. I love y'all.
Love you too. Dada,
Yeah.
can you give me a 15 tomorrow?
Yeah, I got you. I'm gonna get you a new phone too, okay?
I want a 15.
Want a 15 like me?
Yeah.
Got you, okay?
Tomorrow.
The people around him say he spoiled those kids, and that after prison he was really trying to put family first. He was building things too. He acted in local hood movies, including one called Shooters, which made him a bit of a legend around the West Side. He even had his own clothing brand called Another Level. So this was a man with real plans, a man trying to turn a dangerous name into a legit bag that could feed his kids without a court date attached to it. And all of that got taken in a parking lot by people he trusted. His funeral in the fall of 2024 was a whole event, the kind of homegoing you only get when the streets loved you and feared you at the same time. Hold on to that feeling, because we are about to see it happen all over again, a few years earlier, on the other side of Chicago, to a man who was feared even more than Cheeks ever was. His name was Yarmel Williams, born November 19th of 1991, but nobody called him that. They called him 051 Melly.
This is for the 51st police district. Y'all know damn well y'all want finna fucking catch me right down 51st Street. What the fuck was y'all thinking? My car just had 7 miles empty. I just fucked y'all up to 71st, gave me some gas, $40 worth of gas. I'm bringing my ass back on 51st, see if y'all want some more smoke. And yo dumb ass, what the fuck that police officer name, man? You gonna have to catch me. You gonna have to catch me. Ain't up to say on there, what the fuck his name? What the fuck is his name? The bald head one with the spikes. Y'all know I don't fuck with y'all. Yeah, that's me behind that wheel. Y'all ain't gonna catch me. Bitch ass niggas, I hate y'all ass. And y'all are undercover chasing me down. Anyway, I just fucked them up going back down 59th, jumped on the E-way. I'm going home, man. Y'all don't even know where I live. I'm going home, man. Fuck y'all. I ain't even finna come back on 51st. I just thought about it. I ain't finna send me to jail. I love y'all though. Thanks for the action. Y'all just had me having fun. I smoked y'all go down state, Indiana, Wabash. I played around with y'all running in circles.
And I want to be careful and honest with you here, the same way we were with Cheeks, because Melly's legend is a lot bigger than what any court ever proved. In the streets and in the drill documentaries, they call him Gravedigger, and they credit him with anywhere from 15 to 40 bodies. But you should know that this is street lore and internet talk, not proven fact.
If you got any of that snitch shit, stipulations behind your name when you get out of jail, or folks in calling from jail saying you told, saying this, stay the away from me. Okay. I ain't on none of that extra shit you niggas got on, because y'all niggas not with the street code no more out here, G. Friends, other side, other hoods, whoever, it don't matter. I got 2 rappers, Arrow and Ocean. I got another little rapper, nobody really knows my rap. I'm gonna tell you fresh. I don't have that many people out here that I be out here with you. You niggas is 100% not right. Keep that shit over there, my G. You feel me? I don't get a where you from. Keep that shit away. Stay away, far away, you know?
On paper, the only real charge that ever stuck to him was a misdemeanor for a stolen car back in 2018. So the man was terrifying by reputation, but the reputation lived mostly in whispers, diss records, and social media, which in Chicago can be enough to get you killed all by itself.
Melly grew up around some of the roughest public housing the city ever had in the Washington Park and Gresham area, near the old Randolph Towers, a building so deep in the drug game before they tore it down that it was pulling in serious money every single day.
Well, police discovered a gruesome double murder in a Southside Chicago apartment today after an anonymous tip The bodies of 57-year-old Jesse Jackson, not of Operation Push, and an unidentified young woman were found murdered at 6217 South Calumet Avenue. Jackson lived in the apartment. The woman in her mid-20s lived nearby. The bodies were tied together with electrical cord, and police say there is no sign of forced entry and no weapons were found in the...
It had armed lookouts posted like a small army was guarding it, and that whole scene was basically his classroom growing up. His family tree was tangled up in that world too, and deeply. He had a father with black disciples ties, a stepfather rumored to be doing life in prison for murder, and an uncle who was killed back in 2007. So this was a kid raised right in the middle of gang politics before he was even old enough to choose a side, raised in a house where the streets were not some outside threat.
Well, you ain't getting that. I'll let you know. You know how I play out here. You don't come with that money, shorty. You come up in there missing. You talking, you don't know who I am? You don't know who I am?
I know my daddy.
You scared of the dark?
No.
I'm one of them type of guys that be in the dark waiting for you when you gotta go pee at night. And I just get you, and you don't never come back to your parents again. You hear me? Then your TT ain't gonna be able to save you. Your daddy, he gonna be crying somewhere like, man, she don't got nothing to do with me.
He went to Deuceable High School over in Bronzeville, which itself was known as a place gangs pulled new members from, but school was never really the plan for him. By his teens, he was already out there carrying guns and learning the beefs, soaking up the world of the Mickey Cobras and the Black Disciples and the Gangster Disciples all mixed together.
I made a decent little threesome like in my 40s. And but she be tripping, she be upset, like she don't be having no much playtime. You know the nine just be fucking everybody up around the city. It's robbing everybody. You gotta cool out on me, baby. You gotta cool out on me. Like 33 friends, you got 33 friends, she just got 28.
That blend is exactly what his crew grew out of. Around 2008, he became one of the people who helped put together 051 Young Money, holding down the area from around 48th to 51st Street on St. Lawrence Avenue. They did not run it like a corporation with bosses and titles and ranks. What they had instead was loyalty and a reputation for being ruthless, with little subsets underneath them carrying names that told you everything about the mood over there. Melly became the quiet face of all of that. He did not really rap himself, but his name got passed around in other people's songs as a warning. And in the drill world, your name living in the music is its own kind of power, because it means people are thinking about you even when you are not in the room. And even his rivals gave him a strange kind of respect, the kind you only hand to somebody you take completely seriously.
Jim, hey, this was crazy. Hey, now you know, now nigga Melly. Now he one of them niggas you could talk to, you know what I'm saying? You could talk to him because he cool, and he got a little points whatever he did, you know. So it's okay. Now he tell me, now I hired the nigga and shit. The nigga I mean he did right now. But like, he tell me as soon as he's alive. He like, I knew you was gonna get out shorty. You lost your best friend. God had to let you out. You see what I'm saying?
That mix is what made him so dangerous in the first place. He was not just some wild shooter people avoided. He was somebody rivals actually got on the phone with, somebody they respected enough to deal with directly. And that access is part of what let his legend grow so big.
That's all free Durker and Vaughn. Freedom niggas though. I'd rather them dead than in jail, bitch. Them niggas idiots, bro. Been swinging in the chair like he has no worries, bro.
Is the video out?
Yes.
Yeah,
He was in that bitch swinging in the chair. He has no worries, bro. Dog probably scared, but Vaughn, he was in that bitch. I've been in jail before. I know how to fight. You hear me? New tones. Hell no. On King David.
You wouldn't mind. He meant that when he said that.
Who, me? Of course I meant that. Fuck you, man. Hey, let me go talk to him. So what you be? I heard you be saying on BD when you real mad. Yeah, I do.
He thought I heard you mention that King David in the county.
One rival rapper who came up around him talked openly about how their paths crossed and how Melly's name traveled way past Chicago once their moment together went viral online.
He worldwide. Let some people tell it, he made me famous. I was me before I even heard of him. You get what I'm saying? Like, I met Melly in 2013 in the car with Tay. I never knew who he was until I was in the car with Tay.
In that clip or another time?
No, this is another time. I think Tay said in one of his interviews, though, how we met, though, if I ain't mistaken. But I met Melly through Tay, but I ain't gonna lie, Melly was a stand, like, it's that he know what he's saying, and he always kept it gangster and kept it thorough. And, like, I just built that type of, it wasn't no real bond, no real, oh, what up, I see you, I ain't gonna do nothing to you, you see me, and like, no, it wasn't that type of relationship, like.
But in Chicago, the bigger your name gets, the more people are quietly working on the day they take it from you. And Melly's day was coming faster than he knew.
If I was there, it wouldn't go on. If I was there, it wouldn't go on. You could say one person, and I wasn't there, I was in the bush.
Lying, bro. You know I know you lying.
What situation? Just say one person out there.
No, bro, we getting recorded, bro. You know that. I'm not gonna say no name. You know what's going on.
I just told you I was that one person. And what was I doing when going on? I was fucking running to gunfire?
Yeah.
I ain't no stupid.
Super saver, right?
You heard me saying to you, I'm real smart. You even told me I'm not no idiot.
To understand how Melly ended up dead, you have to understand the cycle he was living in, because in these wars, one killing just places the order for the next one. The one confirmed piece that lit a long fuse happened in March of 2014, when Melly's close friend and 051 rapper Lil Mark was shot and killed at a bus stop right after he dropped a diss track called No Competition. He got hit in the head, and the van used in it was later found burned out. That killing is still unsolved, but in the streets it is remembered as the match that lit years of payback. After Lil Mark went down, a whole run of killings got pinned on Melly and his people, one after another. Guys tied to Lil Durk's side, names like Newski and Chino and Capo, all died in the months and years that followed, and the whisper every time was that 051 did it for Mark.
Left Newski. They left his ass right here. You feel me? They left his ass up here on folks and them tweaking. Buying some shoes. Y'all see real niggas be up here though. Niggas play with me up here on folks in this building be on the news. I look like Newski. Hit his ass up right here on Pat. I'm with the that did. He don't want to be on camera though. Hit his ass up right here on Pat. Hey, fuck my boy up. Right here, you feel me? Historic events. Y'all know I'm gonna bring y'all around this shit. Historic events. Wish you would play with me, boy. I look like Newski. He ran into this though. He ran into the children's place, died like a bitch on Pokes now. Goof. No, what do I look like, Newski?
The Capo one is especially heavy because in that same drive-by, a very young child was also killed. There were others too, rivals from sets Melly was at war with, some of them tied back to him as personal revenge. Now I have to be straight with you the same way I was about Cheeks, because none of those killings were ever proven on Melly in any courtroom. They're rumors, built on timelines that line up a little too neatly, on diss songs, and on laughing emojis he supposedly posted right after somebody died. But here's the thing about rumors like that in Chicago. It doesn't matter much whether they're true. Once the streets decide you did all of it, you carry the weight of all of it. And every enemy you ever made starts looking for the day they can hand that weight back to you.
Melly, who forced y'all in?
Who the reason why we play with guns?
Who forced y'all in?
Alright, look, we ain't gonna be doing it on the internet.
The most talked about theory about why Melly himself finally got hit is even darker than any of that, because it says the streets turned on him from the inside, not the outside. One version going around, straight from people who claim to know, is that Melly killed 2 of his own connected guys. If that's true, then the same loyalty that built Melly is the exact thing that marked him for death. Because once you start burying people on your own side quietly starts planning your funeral. There were even people around him who reportedly tried to warn him to slow down and stay away from certain rooms, sensing that the mood had shifted and some of his own were done with him.
When you was younger in school, like 4th grade, 5th grade, your teachers used to tell you, like, when you get older, half your friends gonna be dead or in jail, you ain't never believe them. Cause because you had no worries then. Like, life really be real. When your parents used to tell you, like, when you don't lie to me, I'm 10 steps ahead. I've been through that before. I've been a kid before. That shit real. I know a lot of motherfuckers wish they ever would listen to their teachers or their mamas too. A lot of motherfuckers fucked up. You talking about fuck your teachers. A lot of people fucked up with a stayed in school. They ain't got no hustle. They broke out here. Motherfuckers in jail. Motherfuckers dead. The streets don't really love nobody at all. Life really real. A lot of people gotta wake up out here. This shit ain't no game. I ain't no sad puppy. This shit real. I stay drunk. I'm finna get even more drunken. I'm finna go to the liquor store. Matter of fact, no, I ain't going to the liquor store. I've been too much riding. I ain't trying to get none of that shit going on. I'm trying to chill. Chase a few dollars, catch a little, get a few commas, you know. Fuck with the bitches here and there, you know. Few bitches ain't right out here either.
But by every account, Melly was too big, too fearless, and too used to being untouchable to listen. It was Labor Day weekend, the very start of September 1st, 2019, in the early morning hours, somewhere around 2:45 in the morning. There was a packed house party going on inside a home on the 6100 block of South St. Lawrence Avenue in the Woodland neighborhood. Loud music, a full house, dozens of people shoulder to shoulder, the kind of party where you cannot see everybody and you are not trying to. And that is exactly the kind of place where a man like Melly, a man with all those enemies, had no business standing still. But he was there anyway, comfortable, in his element. And somewhere in that crowd, the shots went off. He got hit multiple times in the chest and stomach and groin.
Man, they just killed y'all.
A 34-year-old woman standing nearby got shot in the foot, though she survived and even drove herself to the hospital afterward. Melly was not that lucky. He was rushed to the University of Chicago Medical Center and pronounced dead at 27 years old. The Cook County medical examiner ruled it a homicide from multiple gunshot wounds. When the police showed up, they ran into the same brick wall that would later stop Cheeks' case cold. The house had been packed with people, but nobody would give a clear description of who did it. In all that chaos and panic, a whole room full of witnesses suddenly couldn't remember a thing. Now compare that to Cheeks for a second, because the rhyme is almost too clean to be real. Both men died at a big social gathering surrounded by their own people, in a crowd where everybody saw something and nobody saw anything. And in both cases, the story that spread first was that they had been backdoored. With Melly, the whispers said he got lured or exploited at that party by people tied to a rival set called Taekwon World or connected to Jero City, possibly off a tip from somebody who knew he would be there and knew he would be relaxed enough to let his guard down. There's even talk that certain people close to him had heard something was coming and tried to keep him from showing up, but that he brushed it off, because that is who he was. About 17 days after the murder, on September 18th of 2019, police arrested a man named Nathaniel Hicks, known in the streets as 007 Nate. According to arrest paperwork that has circulated in the drill community, Nate was charged with first-degree murder and identified through a photo array by at least one witness as the man who pulled a gun and started firing on Melly. The paperwork says he was seen walking into that party with a handgun before the shooting and fleeing right after, that a gun was linked to him, and that he even admitted his own gang affiliation to the detectives. On the surface, that reads like a solid case, the kind that should end with somebody in a courtroom. So why is Melly's killing still sitting there unsolved to this day, with nobody ever convicted? Because the Cook County State's Attorney's Office looked at every bit of it and refused to charge him. They decided they simply could not prove it beyond a reasonable doubt in front of a jury, and the two reasons they gave are almost word for word the same reasons Cheeks' killers are walking around free right now. Reason number one, the witnesses wouldn't cooperate, because out there, cooperating with the state can get you buried next to the victim. And reason number 2, Nate himself never said a single thing they could use against him. No confession, no slip, nothing. Years later, in 2022, detectives pulled the file back out, looked at it again, and basically shelved it for good, marking it cleared without anybody ever standing trial. Nate reportedly came home around 2024 off unrelated gun charges, and to this day, the drill world is still arguing online about who really did it and why nothing ever stuck. And the cycle did not stop with Melly, which is the part that should really sit heavy with you. The violence just kept feeding itself long after he was gone, the same way it did before him. Melly's own brother, known as 051 Wu, was reportedly killed years later, adding one more name to a list that never seems to close. This is the same machine that took FBG Duck and King Von and so many other Chicago names you already know, a machine that runs on pride, jealousy, and the idea that every death has to be answered with another one. It doesn't care how feared you are, it came for the gravedigger, just like it came for everybody else. So sit with what these two stories are really telling us when you put them side by side. These men gave their entire lives to loyalty. They tatted it on their skin, went to prison for it, killed and almost died for it, and built their whole names on the promise that they would ride for the people around them no matter what. And then, when their own last night finally came, that loyalty was nowhere to be found. Because out there, the person standing closest to you is very often the one you should be watching the hardest.
Here's new video of officers breaking down the door just to get inside that home of now convicted murderer Neil Russell, where they discovered that grisly scene.
They had to bust out the front window. And yes, my dad is deceased. He's been there. They don't know for whether it's days or whether it's hours, but he's already in the he's, you know what I'm saying? It's not good.
In the late hours of March 7, 2025, the Atlanta Police Department would respond to a welfare check, but nothing prepared them for the horrifying sight they were about to find. For 2 weeks, inside a quiet apartment on Oglethorpe Avenue in Atlanta, a son lived just a few steps away from a terrible secret. Behind a simple sheet hanging in the room was the lifeless body of his own mother. What was more chilling was that she wasn't the only one. Just feet away lay another lifeless body, her partner, 67-year-old Marvin Spencer. On one side of that sheet was a son, moving through the days as if nothing had happened. For 2 weeks, he ate, slept, and even welcomed visitors into the apartment. On the other side were his mother, Henrietta Russell, and her boyfriend, Marvin Spencer, their bodies slowly decomposing in silence. How could someone live beside such a heartbreaking scene and continue as if everything was normal? The answer would shock everyone who learned the truth. But before we talk about what happened inside that apartment, we need to go back to the beginning. This is the life and death of Henrietta Russell and Marvin Spencer. Marvin Spencer and Henrietta Russell were more than just names in a news story. They were people who had families, people who were loved, people who had their own stories long before that terrible day. Marvin Spencer was 75 years old when his life came to a tragic end. He was a father of 3 children, a grandfather of 14 grandchildren, and a great-grandfather of 6. For many years, Marvin built a family around him. He watched his children grow, saw his grandchildren come into the world, and became someone many people looked up to. To his family, he was not just an older man. He was their dad, their grandfather, their great-grandfather, a person they could call when they needed love, advice, or support. Those who knew Marvin described him as a kind and gentle person. Even in his later years, Marvin stayed active in his community. He liked to attend church gatherings, family cookouts, and neighborhood events. People remembered him as someone who always had a smile, someone who listened more than he spoke, and someone who gave without expecting anything in return. His daughter later said that he was someone who avoided trouble and did not like conflict. He was the type of person who would rather bring peace than create problems, which was a surprise when he would vanish without a trace.
Because my dad was a very kind-hearted person, very non-confrontational person, and it was obvious from what I seen when I went inside of apartment that he fought for his life.
But as shocking as that disappearance was, what came next would be even more disturbing. Marvin lived in Atlanta, Georgia, a city filled with millions of stories and families. But his own story was a quiet one. He was living his later years with someone he cared about deeply, a woman named Henrietta Russell. She was 61-year-old, and the two had been together for about 4 years. They shared a home at Oglethorpe Place Apartments on Oglethorpe Avenue in Atlanta, a modest place, but one that gave them comfort. For Marvin, being with Henrietta meant he was not alone in his later years. They spent time together in quiet ways, enjoying each other's company. To Henrietta, Marvin was more than just a partner. He was someone who gave her days meaning, someone who made the ordinary moments feel important. It was supposed to be a peaceful chapter of their lives, a place where they could enjoy their time together, a place where they felt comfortable and safe. But as we've covered many times, the walls that promise safety sometimes become the very stage for horror. 61-year-old Henrietta was older and had health struggles that made daily activities more difficult. She used a wheelchair and needed help with things around the apartment. Because she needed assistance, her son, Neil Russell, moved into the home to help take care of her. That was the reason he was there. He was supposed to be someone his mother could depend on, a son helping his mother, a family member being there when she needed him. Little did they know his presence would soon twist into a nightmare no one could have imagined. For a while, it seemed like things might work. Neil was present in the home, offering support when Henrietta needed it. To Marvin, it looked like a family coming together to care for one another. But beneath the surface, not everything was as steady as it appeared. Neil Russell was in his mid-40s at the time. According to prosecutors, he had struggled with drug problems in the past and had recently come out of rehabilitation. The hope was that he was working toward rebuilding his life, or so everyone thought. For his mother, having her son nearby may have felt like the right thing to do. Families often want to believe that the people closest to them will protect them. They want to believe home is the safest place to be. And inside that apartment, that was supposed to be the case. Henrietta had someone she loved, Marvin had the woman he cared about, and Neil was supposed to be there to help. He was meant to be a steady presence, someone who could ease the burden of Henrietta's health struggles and bring reassurance to Marvin in his later years. But something would happen inside that apartment that would change everything. On February 27, 2024, prosecutors say an argument had unfolded in the home. Tragically, that argument would end with the lives of Henrietta Russell and Marvin Spencer being taken inside their home by Henrietta's own son, Neil. Not much detail was given about exactly how they were killed, but what is clear is that something inside those walls turned violent. Henrietta, a woman who needed a wheelchair and depended on others for help, was killed inside the place where she should have felt protected. Marvin, a 75-year-old man described by his family as kind and peaceful, was also killed. To those who loved him, the thought of his final moments being filled with violence was almost impossible to accept. And after that moment, the story became even harder for their loved ones to understand, because what happened next was something nobody expected. Instead of leaving, instead of immediately calling for help, Neil Russell stayed inside the apartment. He didn't care that he had 2 lifeless bodies in the apartment, one being his own mother. The silence of that choice was chilling. It showed a lack of empathy, a deep disconnect from the seriousness of what he had done. His decision not only deepened the horror of the crime, but also left investigators and family members struggling to understand how someone could remain so unmoved in the presence of such loss. But inside that apartment, something terrible had happened, and the truth had not yet been discovered. For days, nobody outside the apartment knew what had happened inside. The world beyond those doors carried on as usual, unaware of the pain sealed within. The neighbors continued with their normal lives. To them, nothing seemed unusual. The building stood as it always had, with no hint of the horror inside one of its apartments. People walked through the building, cars came and went, but behind those walls, Neil wasn't done. According to investigators, after taking the lives of his mother and her boyfriend, Neil took a sheet, a simple household item, and placed it across part of the living room, separating himself from the area where his 2 victims would later be found. Life continued on one side of that sheet, while a tragedy remained hidden on the other side. Neil Russell carried on as though nothing had happened. He moved through the apartment, ignoring what lay just beyond the barrier. The sheet allowed him to pretend, at least for a time, that the horror was not there, even though it was only steps away. Neil Russell continued living inside the apartment. He slept there. He ate there. Not only that, he even allowed other people to visit without knowing what was behind the sheet. However, behind those walls, a heartbreaking discovery was about to be found. As the days passed, Marvin and Henrietta's family became worried. They had not heard from both of them. This was unlike them. They wouldn't go so long without communicating. For their family, the quiet was unusual, and unusual silence often means something isn't right. However, there was one person who refused to ignore that feeling. That person was Marvin's daughter, Maria Spencer. She could not shake the thought that something was wrong. Maria had always been close to her father, and she knew his habits. The silence set off alarm bells, and her worry only grew stronger. Maria had been trying to contact her father for days. His birthday was around the corner.
It was my daddy's 76th birthday.
She wanted to make plans. She called him, she waited for an answer, but the phone stayed quiet. This wasn't normal. Something felt wrong. When someone you love suddenly becomes quiet, especially an older family member, it can create a feeling that something is not right. Maria decided she needed to find out what was happening. She could not sit back and wait any longer. She wanted to hear her father's voice, to know he was okay, so she called the next person close to him. She called Henrietta's phone. Someone answered. It was Neil Russell. Maria did not know Neil that well. While she knew he was Henrietta's son, they didn't have a relationship, but something about their conversation made her uncomfortable. The way he spoke or the tone of his voice, something felt off. Maria could not explain exactly what it was, but she felt that something was wrong. Maria's instincts told her Neil was hiding something. Maybe something had happened to her father and he didn't want to tell her, or something else. All she knew was Neil sounded like he knew more than he was letting at. At that point, she made a decision. She went to the apartment building on Oglethorpe Avenue. She could not ignore her worry any longer. She decided she needed to see for herself what was happening. When she arrived, Maria asked the property manager to help check on Marvin and Henrietta. They needed to know if the couple was safe. The property manager agreed, understanding that something serious might be going on. However, when they reached the apartment door, they noticed something strange. The door was unlocked, but it would not open. Something inside was blocking it. The people outside could not get in. Then came another warning sign. Before anyone even entered the apartment, they noticed a terrible smell coming from inside. It was strong, heavy, and unlike anything they had smelled before. The smell made it clear that whatever was behind that door was not normal. The discovery was becoming more serious with every moment. What had started as a welfare check was quickly turning into something far more alarming. Maria immediately called 911. Police arrived at the apartment, but they quickly realized this was not a normal welfare check. The situation was far more grave. What they were about to uncover inside the apartment would confirm the fears that had been growing since the first unanswered phone call. Neil Russell was still inside the apartment, but he was not alone. Earlier that same day, Neil had met a woman at a train station. She was a stranger, someone who had no idea about his past or what was waiting inside the apartment. Neil lured her back to the home, pretending it was just another visit. But once inside, the truth of his intentions became clear. He held her hostage at knife point inside the same home where the decomposing bodies lay. The woman had no way of knowing what she was walking into. She was forced to stay in a place filled with danger and two lifeless, decomposing bodies. And now she was trapped in the middle of a dangerous situation. The Atlanta Police Department responded and immediately surrounded the building. A standoff began. Officers tried to communicate with Neil Russell and safely bring the situation to an end, but he was not responding. They called out, they tried to reason with him, but the silence from inside the apartment made it obvious Neil wasn't going to budge. For several hours, police remained outside while they worked to protect everyone inside. They had to be careful because rushing in could put the woman at risk. The situation was difficult. Inside the apartment was a person accused of a serious crime. There was also a woman who needed to be rescued. The officers knew they had to balance stopping Neil Russell with saving her life. At that moment, officers still did not know everything that had happened behind that door. They did not yet realize that two people had already lost their lives. As the hours passed, police continued working toward a peaceful resolution. They hoped Neil would surrender, but the longer he stayed silent, the more dangerous the situation became. Then, after about 4 hours of a standoff, officers made their move. The SWAT team entered the apartment. They pushed past the barrier and went inside, prepared for whatever they might find. Inside, they found what everyone had feared. 65-year-old Henrietta Russell and 78-year-old Marvin Spencer were found dead. The truth was finally revealed. The silence had been hiding a tragedy all along. The woman who had been inside with Neil Russell was rescued. She was shaken but alive, finally free from the danger she had been trapped in, and Neil Russell was taken into police custody. The standoff was over, but the story of what had happened inside that apartment was only beginning to unfold.
This is a story we brought you as breaking news last night. This morning, we spoke with the family members. They identified the couple. Police say the couple's son is the primary suspect. Fox 5's Kim Luffler has more.
The daughter of one of the victims tells me this all started when she was trying to get a hold of her dad to wish him a happy birthday and ended up calling for a welfare check.
I called him yesterday morning around 8:50 in the morning and it was straight directly to voicemail.
Marvin Spencer's daughter says when she couldn't get in touch with her dad on his 76th birthday, she called his girlfriend, Henrietta Russell.
And then I got an answer. It was a male. He stated that he was Henrietta's son.
Feeling something wasn't right, she went to the apartment with a leasing agent. That's when they found the door barricaded and called police. When police got on scene around 3 p.m. on Friday, they say a man identified as Russell's son refused to come out, leading to an hours-long standoff.
At that time, they was coming out, they was shooting the little tear gas guns. They was letting off, they let off a large amount of rounds to get them out of there.
When police got inside the unit, they found a man and woman dead, which family have identified as Spencer and Russell. Police say Russell's son also held a woman at knife point in the apartment during the standoff. They say he met the woman that day at a nearby MARTA station. Police do suspect the son of killing the couple. Family was allowed back inside the unit on Saturday.
I don't know how she didn't smell it. It's there. I don't even know how the neighbors could smell it through the vents.
Right now, it's unclear when or how the couple was killed. Spencer's daughter says she last talked to her dad on February 21st, and police say he did pay his rent on March 1st.
I called on the 3rd, no answer.
Police have not yet released the suspect's name or his full list of charges. Spencer's family wants answers.
I talked to him for a brief moment, and he literally just lied in my face. So I'm ready to see him in court.
We know the suspect in this case was taken to Grady to be treated for self-inflicted cuts. Police say he's been charged with false imprisonment with more charges pending.
For Marvin Spencer's family, the news was devastating. What they had feared in their hearts was now confirmed, and the pain of that discovery would stay with them forever.
I wasn't expecting for it to be what it was, and I definitely wasn't expecting it for it to be as bad as it was.
The day they should have been celebrating Marvin's 76th birthday became the day they learned he was gone. Instead of gathering to celebrate his life, they were forced to face a painful reality. A father, grandfather, and great-grandfather was no longer coming home. Henrietta's family was also left with questions that may never have easy answers. The person who was supposed to help care for her was now accused of causing her death. After Neil Russell was taken into custody, the investigation began in full.
Tonight, we now know the identity of a man arrested after being accused of barricading himself inside an apartment and holding a woman hostage while his mother and her longtime boyfriend lay dead inside. This is Neil Russell. The 44-year-old is charged with aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and possession of a knife during the commission of a felony. Police say Marvin Spencer and his girlfriend Henrietta Russell were found dead yesterday in the Oglethorpe Place apartments in Atlanta's West End after his daughter requested a welfare check when she couldn't reach him for his birthday. When the leasing office manager realized that the door to the apartment was barricaded, that's when they called police. Inside, officers say Neil Russell was holding a woman that he had just met at the MARTA station at knife point. After hours of negotiations, he was taken into custody. Investigators believe Spencer and his girlfriend were killed about a week ago.
Officers and detectives examined the apartment carefully. They photographed the scene, noting the sheet, the blood, and the areas where Henrietta and Marvin had been found. They collected evidence from every part of the apartment. Investigators also interviewed neighbors, friends, and family members. They needed to know what had been happening before the crime, what Neil Russell's behavior had been like, and how the victims had interacted with him. The investigation revealed many troubling details. Neil had lived with the bodies for nearly 2 weeks. He had withdrawn money from his mother's account while she lay dead in the apartment. He had brought people over to the apartment, pretending that nothing had happened. All of these facts helped police build a case against him. The authorities also confirmed the hostage situation. They interviewed the woman who had been inside the apartment that day. She described what had happened and how Neil had threatened her with a knife. All of these details added to the seriousness of the charges against him. Once the evidence was collected, the case moved to court. Neil Russell was formally charged with several crimes: 2 counts of murder, 1 for Henrietta and 1 for Marvin, aggravated assault for threatening the hostage, false imprisonment for holding the woman against her will, charges related to the use of a weapon during the crimes. The trial began after months of preparation. By March 12, 2025, Neil appeared in court. The prosecution presented the evidence from the apartment, including the photographs, witness statements, and the details of the standoff. They told the jury about the sheet, the smell, the money withdrawal, and the lives that had been lost. Not only that, an autopsy was carried out, and the results confirmed the violent deaths of Henrietta and Marvin. Prosecutors filed 2 counts of murder against Neil Russell. His mother, Henrietta's larynx, had been crushed from strangulation, and her partner Marvin had suffered multiple stab wounds. What was more disturbing was the fact that Neil Russell himself offered no clear motive for why he had killed his mother, Henrietta Russell, or her partner, Marvin Spencer. When questioned, he gave no explanation, no justification, not even a flicker of remorse. There was no readable emotion from him, no anger, no sorrow, no regret. He sat in the courtroom with a blank stare, as if detached from the gravity of the crimes he had committed. This chilling absence of feeling left relatives and investigators baffled and unsettled. Family members, desperate for answers, described the silence as more painful than the crime itself. They wanted to understand why a son would strangle his own mother and stab her partner, but Neil's refusal to speak only deepened the mystery. Prosecutors highlighted this void, painting him as a man who had not only betrayed his family, but also robbed them of closure. For investigators, the lack of motive was a haunting detail. It meant there was no clear trigger, no warning signs they could point to, no explanation that could be written into the record. Instead, the case stood as a grim reminder that sometimes the most terrifying crimes are those committed without reason, acts of violence carried out in silence, leaving behind only questions that will never be answered. On March 26, 2026, after deliberation, Neil Russell was found guilty on 9 counts, including the 2 murders. The verdict was a moment of closure for the families, though it could not bring back Henrietta or Marvin. During sentencing, the judge handed down 2 consecutive life sentences. On top of that, Neil Russell received an additional 25 years for the other charges. Because of Georgia's laws, he would not be eligible for parole for at least 60 years. This meant that he would likely spend the rest of his life in prison. For the families, the sentence confirmed that justice had been served. While it could never undo the pain or bring their loved ones back, it ensured that Neil Russell could not harm anyone else.
New at 6 o'clock, a man convicted of murder also lived with the bodies of the decomposing victims for weeks. Here's new video of officers breaking down the door just to get inside that home of now convicted murderer Neil Russell, where they discovered that grisly scene. Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie live now in the newsroom for us. And Mark, one victim was his mother.
Yeah, the lead prosecutor on this case for the Fulton County DA's office says that Neil Russell used a sheet to partition off the part of an apartment where he lived with 2 dead bodies. One of them, his mother's, for an estimated 2 weeks, even hosting guests.
It was my daddy's 76th birthday.
You cannot allow people to come into your home that make you less safe, no matter how much you love them.
I wasn't expecting for it to be what it was, and I definitely wasn't expecting it for it to be as bad as it was.
Neil Russell lived with the bodies of his mother Henrietta Russell and her longtime boyfriend Marvin Spencer for an estimated 2 weeks after he killed them in late February 2025. But now he'll likely live the rest of his life in prison following his recent conviction for murder and more, and a sentence of 2 consecutive life sentences plus 25 years that by current parole standards wouldn't leave the 46-year-old eligible for parole for at least 60 years, says Fulton County Chief Senior Assistant District Attorney Travis Thomas.
When his mother got paid her Social Security on the 1st, he immediately went to an ATM machine and emptied out her account.
Who told us he tried the case with Assistant DAs Johanna Miratab.
Both the victims deserved a respectful burial.
And Lauren Polk.
When the officers spoke on the stand, they said that from outside the door, they could smell the decomposing bodies.
Maria Spencer says March 7, 2025 was supposed to be the 76th birthday of her dad, Marvin Spencer, father of 3, grandfather of 14, and great-grandfather of 6, but instead it was the date she found out he'd been murdered, along with his longtime girlfriend, Henrietta Russell, whom he loved.
I think my faith is one of the main things that's getting me through it. I haven't really necessarily taken the time off to properly grieve.
Ms. Spencer said she'd been trying to reach her dad for 2 or 3 days, but when she couldn't, she finally called Henrietta Russell's phone, and her son Neil answered, whom she'd never met. But something wasn't right, so she went to the couple's apartment and asked the property manager to do a welfare check. And when they couldn't get in the door, she called 911.
The door is unlocked, but they cannot get in because it's a barricade.
It wasn't going to be discovered if it wasn't for Maria Spencer.
Prosecutor Thomas says during a roughly 4-hour standoff, Neil Russell spoke with an Atlanta police officer and 911, and after APD SWAT got through the door, authorities discovered Ms. Russell had been strangled and Mr. Spencer stabbed 16 times. Says the defense hammered at a lack of DNA or fingerprint evidence, and Neil Russell's motive is a mystery.
We know that he has, drug history. He had just gone out of rehab at the time.
Thomas says Ms. Russell was in a wheelchair. DA Fonnie Willis.
So he's supposed to be there to help her, but instead what he does is take her life.
Now, records indicate by my count, Neil Russell was convicted on 9 counts and acquitted on 4. A spokesman said the Fulton County Public Defender's Office represented Mr. Russell at trial with a zealous defense. Quote, though he did not prevail, we will continue to support him through the post-trial process. We believe in Mr. Russell and the right to effective counsel for everyone.
In the aftermath, the community reflected on the tragedy. Maria Spencer, Marvin's daughter, spoke about the importance of persistence. She had refused to accept uncertainty and had made the calls that led to police discovering the truth. Her courage prevented the case from going unnoticed for even longer. Neil Russell's mental state revealed the unsettling reality of emotional detachment. He threatened violence during the standoff, held a stranger hostage, and lived for nearly 2 weeks with the decomposing bodies of his mother and her partner without showing any visible distress. This kind of behavior points to a mind that has become disconnected from normal feelings of guilt, fear, or grief. His behavior reflects emotional blunting and detachment, traits often seen in individuals with severe instability or substance-related deterioration. Emotional blunting means that feelings are dulled or shut down, so the person does not react in ways most people would expect. Instead of panic or sorrow, Neil appeared flat, as if the seriousness of the situation did not reach him. Sitting before a judge, he showed no emotion, no sign of regret, and no recognition of the pain he had caused. For families watching, it was disturbing because it suggested that Neil was not only detached from reality, but also from the humanity of those around him. The story of Neil Russell's crimes is a reminder that danger can sometimes come from within the walls and people we trust most. It is a lesson about vigilance, responsibility, and the consequences of actions. My hearts go out to the family and loved ones of Henrietta Russell and Marvin Spencer. Their lives were taken in a way that no family should ever have to endure. May their memory be honored with love, and may their family find strength and comfort in the midst of such unimaginable loss.